Let me destroy the biggest lie men tell themselves when she starts pulling back. You think giving her space means sitting there like a wounded puppy, waiting for her to come around. You think being understanding means accepting breadcrumbs while she decides if you're worth her time. That's not space, brother. That's surrender. Here's what really happens when she starts acting distant. She's not confused. She's not going through something. She's testing. Testing to see if you'll chase. Testing to see if you'll panic. Testing to see if you'll become that man who floods her phone with paragraphs explaining why she should want you. And every single time you fail that test, you prove you're exactly who she thought you were. Desperate. The number one move when she starts acting distant isn't what you think. It's not giving her space and hoping she remembers how good you are. It's not being patient while she figures herself out. It's not being the understanding guy who's there whenever she decides to show up again. The number one move is this. You match her energy and then you exceed it. She pulls back, you pull back further. She becomes unavailable, you become unreachable. She starts acting like your time doesn't matter. You start acting like she doesn't exist. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Because the moment you start chasing someone who's walking away from you, you've already lost. You see, most men think distance is a problem to solve. They think if she's pulling back, they need to pull her closer. But distance isn't a problem. Distance is information. It's her telling you exactly where you stand in her life. And if where you stand isn't at the top, then you need to walk away from the entire hierarchy. When she starts acting distant, she's waiting for you to do one of two things. Chase or choose yourself. Most men chase. They send the good morning text to someone who barely responds. They make plans with someone who's always busy. They invest emotional energy into someone who's emotionally unavailable. And every single time they do that, they're training her to treat them like an option. But the man who chooses himself, he becomes dangerous. Not because he's cruel, but because he's clear. He's clear about his value. He's clear about his standards. He's clear about what he will and won't accept. And that clarity is terrifying to a woman who was counting on his confusion to keep him hooked. Here's what happens when you match her energy. When she takes hours to respond, you take days. When she becomes too busy to see you, you become too busy to care. When she starts treating you like you're lucky to have her attention, you start acting like she's lucky to have yours. And something shifts. The power dynamic flips because you're no longer operating from need. She starts acting distant because she wants to see you sweat. She wants to see you panic. She wants to see you become that man who explains why he deserves better treatment. But when you don't give her that reaction, when you mirror her energy instead of fighting it, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable men are magnetic. Most men think matching her energy means playing games. But this isn't a game. This is a standard. You're not trying to make her jealous. You're not trying to teach her a lesson. You're simply refusing to be more invested in someone than they are in you. You're refusing to water a plant that's not growing. You're refusing to feed energy into something that's not feeding you back. When she starts acting distant, she's expecting you to fill the gap she created. She's expecting you to double your effort to compensate for her lack of effort. She's expecting you to become the person who tries harder because she's trying less. But when you don't fill that gap, when you let the distance exist, something powerful happens. She starts feeling the space she created. The space becomes real to her. The distance becomes tangible. Your absence becomes noticeable. And for the first time, she's experiencing what it feels like when someone who used to prioritize her stops making her a priority. That feeling is foreign to her because she's used to men who chase harder when she pulls back. You see, distance is only effective when it's mutual. When you're the only one creating space, you're not creating mystery. You're creating convenience. You're making it easy for her to have you when she wants you and ignore you when she doesn't. But when you match her distance, when you become equally unavailable, the dynamic changes completely. She starts wondering what you're doing. She starts questioning why you're not trying harder. She starts noticing that you're not affected by her pulling back. And that bothers her because she was counting on your predictable reaction. She was expecting you to fight for her attention, but instead, you withdrew yours. The number one move isn't about winning her back. It's about winning yourself back. It's about reclaiming the energy you were pouring into someone who wasn't returning it. It's about redirecting your focus toward things that actually matter. Your goals, your growth, your peace. And when you do that, when you become genuinely busy with your own life, the distance stops being about her and starts being about you. That's when you become dangerous. Not when you're pretending to be busy to make her jealous, but when you're actually busy building something better. Not when you're acting like you don't care, but when you genuinely start caring less. Not when you're playing hard to get, but when you become hard to get because you're focused on becoming someone worth getting. She starts acting distant because she wants control. She wants to dictate the pace. She wants to decide when you're worthy of her time and attention. But when you match her energy, you take that control away. You're no longer waiting for her to decide your worth. You're deciding it yourself. And here's the beautiful part. When you match her energy and exceed it, one of two things happens. Either she realizes what she's losing and steps up her effort, or she continues being distant and you continue moving forward without her. Either way, you win. Either you get someone who values your time, or you free your time for someone who will. Most men are terrified of this approach because they think matching her distance means losing her. But you can't lose someone who's already walking away. You can't lose someone who's treating you like an option. You can only lose the illusion that they were ever truly yours. When she starts acting distant, she's showing you who she is. Believe her. Don't fight it. Don't explain it away. Don't make excuses for it. Accept it and respond accordingly. If she wants distance, give her more distance than she knows what to do with. If she wants space, give her so much space that she starts wondering if you're still in the same universe. The number one move is to become unreachable to someone who's making themselves unavailable to you. Not because you're angry, but because you're awake. Awake to the fact that your energy is precious. Awake to the fact that your time is valuable. Awake to the fact that you deserve someone who's excited to be in your presence, not someone who treats your presence like a burden. When you match her energy, you stop being the man who's always available and start being the man who's rarely accessible. You stop being the man who's easy to reach and start being the man who's worth reaching for. You stop being the man who chases and start being the man who's chased. And that shift changes everything. Because now you're not the option she's considering. You're the opportunity she's missing. You're not the backup plan she's keeping around. You're the main event she's losing access to. And that fear of loss is more powerful than any amount of pursuing you could ever do. The number one move when she starts acting distant is to become a stranger to her emotions. Not cruel, but unavailable. Not mean, but unreachable. Not angry, but absent. And that absence creates a void that her attention used to fill. Now she has to sit with that void and decide if losing you is worth the distance she created. Most of the time, she'll realize it's not. But by then, you'll have realized something too. You'll have realized that someone who can easily become distant isn't someone you want to be close to. You'll have realized that someone who can treat your presence like it's optional isn't someone who deserves your presence at all. The number one move isn't about getting her back. It's about getting back to yourself. The man you were before you started accepting less than you deserved. The man you were before you started chasing someone who was walking away. The man you were before you confused patience with permission to be treated poorly. Match her energy. Exceed her distance. Become unreachable to someone who's making themselves unavailable. And watch how quickly someone who was too busy for you suddenly finds the time to wonder where you went. That's the move, King. Not chasing what's walking away, but walking so far ahead that what's behind you becomes irrelevant.